This is Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur with your host, Lynn Freest. Lynn will share ideas and expert advice from people that are walking in your shoes and living their encore careers, where they want and at the pace they want. You'll start a company of one with confidence and knowledge to live a fulfilled life of freedom and ease. Lynn is a coach and leadership consultant whose mission is to show senior leaders and experts how to start something refreshing and new after a full career in the corporate environment.
Welcome to this episode of the podcast, Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur. This is episode 115, and it's titled Going Digital with Ernie Svenson. Well, making the leap from being a corporate leader and expert into becoming a solopreneur can be daunting, but the rewards are great. You can work when you want, where you want, and do the work you love. I can be that guide and thinking partner for you. As your coach, I can help you go farther and faster based on what I've learned from being on this journey for several years. If you're having thoughts about starting an encore career, please contact me and take the self-assessment quiz. The quiz will help you get some quick clarity about what's possible for you in the future. After you listen to the podcast, I encourage you to visit my website at lynnfreest.com and download the PDF as a guide to help you take the next steps on your pursuit of an encore career. Well, today we're going to be talking with Ernie Svenson. He's also known as Ernie the Attorney. I met Ernie at a conference and have always been intrigued about how he developed his new business. Ernie used to practice law the traditional way, handling complex business litigation cases, for example, having many boxes of paper organized by lots of staff members. But then he learned how to create a 100% paperless, highly automated law practice, one that was financially rewarding and personally fulfilling. He had low overhead, low stress, and more freedom. Now he helps lawyers who want to do the same with their practices. He found getting new clients was easy and inexpensive. His main marketing tool was a simple website that cost less than $100. And because his overhead was ridiculously low, he was able to earn a good living without working crazy hours. So as we talk with Ernie, some of the questions we'll discuss include how working on your mindset is a critical first step in starting your journey as a company of one, why you need to consider your business to be a knowledge factory, why being able to document your processes is critical to working with a team and having an effective small organization. And then finally, why not to chase technology changes? So now we'll enjoy our conversation with Ernie. Well, welcome, Ernie. It's great to have you here. And I'd just like to start off by giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, no, it's great to see you again, Lynn. I am excited to talk to you as well. We have our good mutual friend, Mike Kim, who connected us, since I always like talking to anybody that I've met through the Mike Kim world. Yeah, my background is I am a lawyer, although I don't practice anymore, because somewhere along the way I started fiddling around with technology and had this crazy idea that maybe it could make life more efficient. And it did make my life better as a lawyer in a big firm. It made my life even better as a lawyer in a solo firm that I ran by myself. And a lot of other lawyers in solo and small firm practices took a look at what I was doing and said, I wonder if I could do that too. And I said, yeah, sure you can. And I showed them how to be paperless and how to automate things and outsource things. And I got more speaking gigs, and the American Bar Association asked me to write some books. And all of that led to me getting asked and getting paid to do what was a side gig. And then I said, I like this side gig a lot more because I can help people without an opposing counsel on the other side saying that everything I said is ridiculous. And yeah, it was more interesting, more fun. I had a greater sense of satisfaction, and I had to figure out how to make a business out of it. And that's how I met Mike, was joining in with other people who are entrepreneurial and learning how to market better and stuff like that. So now I help lawyers do all that stuff, plus also with the marketing, because of course that's important.
Sounds great. And it's interesting, I'm sure, and we'll go into that, there's probably more than a few mindset shifts you had to make going from a lawyer's mindset into more the entrepreneurial mindset. What were some of the things that you noticed that you changed?
Yeah, no, that's an important question. And it's funny because at the time, I didn't realize the mindset barriers were going to be an issue. I kind of figured I was open-minded and willing to try things. And that, of course, is part of having the right mindset. But it was also realizing that I needed to try things that I didn't think I needed to try, like marketing. I thought I knew marketing because I started what I guess turns out to be the 5th lawyer blog in 2002. So I got a lot of easy marketing out of that. because I was one of the few lawyers doing it. But then when I decided to pivot over to helping lawyers, making that my full-time business, I realized quickly that marketing wasn't working so easily and I had to learn. And then a lot of the learning involved me shifting my mindset about what marketing really was. I had these assumptions about what it was or how it had to be done. And that kept me spinning my wheels for a while. And now when I help lawyers, it echoes back and I see people stuck with certain ideas. And I guess a lot of what I've had to learn is it's not enough to just give people information. And, insights are part of it, but the insights a lot of times have to do with realizing they need to shift their thinking and helping them shift their thinking. And that's not something that is easily done. Certainly, it's not the kind of thing that happens when you just read a book or take a course. It requires some more ongoing guidance. So I have a group coaching program, and that's really where I can accomplish that. But it's interesting to see it happening to other people and realizing that's what I needed. And that's part of what Mike was really good with when I was in that group. Mike opened my mind and helped me believe and understand things that I otherwise would not have been able to believe or understand if it had not been for his ongoing help.
Sure. My audience is people who want to start encore careers and especially those coming out of the corporate world. And again, myself, I found out later that there was a lot of mindset that I had to kind of unlearn as I jumped into the more of the entrepreneurial work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think a lot about the book Future Shock by Alvin Toffler, which was written in the 70s. And he predicted this world that we're living in where everything's changing so quickly and we have to keep up with the change. And it's because of digital technology for the most part. But one of his famous lines is, the illiterate of the future will not be people who can't read or write so much as people who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think about that a lot because that's really what is going on. You have to let go of things when they are no longer apt. And digital technology certainly presents those challenges.
Oh, yeah. We were talking this morning in a group about changing technologies. And somebody said, can't we just settle on one and have it done? I said, I'm afraid that's probably not possible in the long run.
Yeah, that would be nice, but not happening.
Yeah. On the other hand, people with experience like yourself and others, I also happen to read a book called the Daily Stoic. It's sharing thoughts of people from 2,000 years ago. And interestingly enough, a lot of the issues they talk about haven't changed all that much. So people like you and I that have got some experience, it's probably still valuable.
No, that's important. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's always important to point out if you say that the world's changing a lot and you need to keep up with the change, which, yes, that's true. But there are some things that aren't changing. And certainly in marketing, human nature is really the key thing. And that hasn't changed in 2,000 years and isn't going to change for another 1,000 years. And I also think about what Jeff Bezos said when somebody asked him, what's the new thing? And he said, I try to focus on the things that aren't changing because keeping up with everything that's changing is too hard. Now, that's somebody who obviously could and has a company and, he's putting rockets in space. But yeah, you need to keep track and focus on those things that aren't changing if they're important, which Ryan Holiday and the Daily Stoic book really helps me as well to think about and focus on.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that, again, for the people that I'm trying to help, I think it's important on one hand, they own their expertise, so they don't let go of it because technology is different. They own their expertise, but on the other hand, they do have to have the mind of a beginner, especially as they start thinking about technology or marketing. And it's an interesting balance, I think, people have to have.
Yeah, for sure.
Could you think about any of the specific skills? And again, you may have been an earlier adopter for technology, but what were at least a few of the things that you, and maybe in the legal profession, there's something there, but what were some of the early things that you really had to adopt?
The earliest thing, the thing that really put me on the path was figuring out how to become paperless. Like I had a friend that had a copy company and they saw the vision that scanning was going to be the future. And he kept trying to convince me, again, back to the mindset, that this was going to be a thing I needed to pay attention to. And I was like, wait a minute, this costs 5 times as much to scan something. And I couldn't wrap my head around the idea that yeah, but you only scan it once and then you hit print as many times as you want. So you're going to save money in the long run. Plus you find information faster. So once I realized that was possible and what that enabled, searching for information and finding it instantly, that's when my mind, blew open and I realized, wait a second, the practice of law is an information processing business. and you can process information faster and better and automate it faster and better in a digital format than in paper format using a mechanical copying and collating machine. So that was the first thing. That was what made me realize, wow, this is going to change everything. And it did change everything for me because it meant I could go into court with nothing more than my laptop and my mind and my skills and find the information I needed to find in an instant, have an advantage over other people who are trying to rifle through paper files. And yeah, that was my epiphany, that moment. That was around 2001.
As you think about certainly the technology of going paperless, but I'm guessing you had to really put some new processes in place, maybe. Again, obviously there's processes for paper. Now you still had to have processes for digital.
Yeah, there was this product called Case Map. It was basically a database is what it was. And it was created by jury consultants who had gone in to help lawyers prepare for trial. And they're getting paid a lot of money to do the jury consulting part, but they're data people. So they use databases and they realized like, wow, you guys are really bad at managing your data. And so they created this product, which was basically just a database, but it was, prefabbed for what lawyers did. And I remember using that. That was another thing I discovered right around the time of being paperless. And I realized, like, wait a second, if I just use this tool, it's like paint by numbers. Not that I needed a paint by numbers system, but I could load things in without thinking about it too much or have somebody else do it like a paralegal. And then the exponential benefit of having this information in a way that was easily filterable, sortable, you could connect because it was a relational database. You could connect like this witness is connected to these issues and these documents. That was another mind-blowing thing. So between those two things, that's when I realized if I make everything digital, connect it to this database, I can basically do by myself what I was having paralegals help me to do and secretaries, and I could do it with nothing more than my laptop, and I could basically do it from anywhere. And yeah, that was the moment, 2001. Space Odyssey.
Thinking of my audience, this idea that now it's possible to have a company of one, or it's more possible than ever to have a company of one, that things like this, whether it be the technology or the processes, can really allow you to, both in the legal field, in other words, take that step away from the big business.
There's a book called Information Anxiety by Richard Saul Wurman, the guy that created the TED Talks and so forth. And he also coined the term information architecture because he thought a lot about the information age and what is really going on here and how do we use information better and all that kind of stuff. And there's a graphic in there, which he didn't create, but I've thought about this a lot. And it's an explanation of the progression of understanding, which is you start with data. Data is just these little factoids that by themselves don't mean anything, and you have to validate it. And if you're a scientist, you have to create statistical significance, and then you get information. But really, the data information is what can be automated, outsourced, and can help support knowledge and wisdom and insight. But it's the knowledge and wisdom part of the progression that we're talking about, that I guess the folks you help and the folks I help, like that's where you should be hanging out, using your knowledge to solve interesting, complex, valuable problems, and less time futzing with that stuff at the data information level. And if you do that, you'll be happier, you'll make more money, life will be better, but you do have to learn how to run a knowledge factory, essentially. And a knowledge factory means doing that low-level stuff or figuring out how to assign it to people so that you can then enjoy life and walk around and people pay you for your knowledge.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. You've touched on this before, but I wanted to come back. What was an important thing you had to learn not to do? Maybe other than just the paper, but again, maybe that's almost a mindset question. I don't know.
There were probably several things I had to learn not to do. One big thing, and I think this is true for a lot of people, is I had to learn not to just chase technology in the way that I did when I started. Like when I started, there wasn't as much technology, and everything that was new was an opportunity that I could spend some time exploring. And then over time, I realized I was really chasing too many things. Going, wait, this might be better. And we're at the point now where I'd say for most of what most people who aren't in some uber tech world need to do, you have all the tools you need and you should stop chasing new ones. There's no new task management program that's going to solve your task management problem. That's probably more like a Daily Stoic focus, block out distractions, don't be reactive kind of thing. So there are a lot of things like that. Just my enthusiasm and my willingness to try things, I had to stop doing that.
Yep. I've heard several people, in fact, it was Steve Jobs, I think, said, you got to have a stop doing list. And
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it's funny. That is a good place to start. It's better to have a not to do list than a to do list. We're all doing a lot of things that we shouldn't be doing at all. And we think that we have to do them and they're burdening us. So like rather than give ourselves new things to do, it's best to clear away some of the sagebrush and underbrush. So yeah, not doing lists, very valuable.
so I know you go out and help others. And one of the things you mentioned before was marketing. So maybe from your perspective of helping lawyers market, what are the key areas around marketing that you've helped people learn?
Yeah. First off, I would say that there's a lot of snake oil out there. I didn't know how to run a business, when I went out on my own, because I didn't have to know that. I just went out on my own, got clients, figured out how to do the work, but didn't really understand a lot of things that were foundational, business. So I learned that, but then I had to modify it for the digital age. And the same thing was true with marketing. Like with marketing, I thought, oh, just get a website and that'll be it. And then I realized that there were people who knew what they were doing with marketing. And there were a lot of people pretending to know that they knew what they were doing, when in reality, they knew one thing, one small thing. So marketing, first of all, get Mike Kim's book, You Are the Brand, because you are a brand. You're a personal brand, and you need to understand what that means. And you need to understand how to connect that to the other foundational things that are involved with marketing a solo person or small firm business. And Mike's book is it. I love his book. It's funny because I feel like I can have a conversation with Mike about the most important things by opening up that book and flipping to sections. And I'll remember, oh yeah, that's right. Mike talked about that. And I still really haven't nailed this. So his book is worth thousands and thousands of dollars, in my opinion. And after that, it's really get real. Let's be real. Okay. What you're doing in marketing, you attract people through awareness, advertising, whatever. And you should do it in a thoughtful way, not a grabby way. And then you need to communicate with people and engage with them over time. So you build rapport and you build trust and you earn that trust in a good way. And then if they hire you to do the work, then you need to do a great job with the work. So that's it. It's not complicated when you think about the big important parts. The thing is, most people see other people gaining attraction on social media, or they're all over the place. And you start to misunderstand or misappreciate what you really need to be focusing on. And that happened to me. And again, it was being around Mike, who's just a fountain of clarity and wisdom and actionable, recommendations, that I said, oh, wait, okay. So if I just do this, that'll make, oh, yes, of course. Just build trust. That makes sense. Here's an acid test. This is my acid test. If the person you're going to get marketing advice from does not have an email list or doesn't understand what AIDA means, for example, but definitely if they don't have an email list, just cross them off, because anyone who knows anything about modern marketing is using email marketing. And that's when it took me a long time to wrap my head around, because there was so many people that were supposedly doing great who didn't have an email list and they just had a website. No, ignore those people. Cross them off your list immediately.
Again, as we've talked a lot about Mike, because he has wonderful information and source of knowledge. The other thing I always remember with him is he says marketing is about opening a relationship, not closing a sale. And so if you go with that idea, I'm trying to make new relationships, at least for me, that's, again, provided me a lot of clarity. We still have to worry about things like email copy, but we remember the basic thing is we're trying to open a relationship.
Yep. That's it. That's the key. And once people stop and think about that, and that was true for me, I was like, oh yeah, of course, that's really what it is. All marketing is relationships. But if you treat everything transactionally, which is what these folks do who focus on advertising and nothing else, yeah, if you treat it as a transactional thing, you're going to have very poor relationships, flimsy relationships, and you're always going to be spending a lot of money to get attention, and you're going to be burning out your opportunities with the people that would have trusted you if you had gone about it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I know you've also coached others in this process. What are some of the things as they've developed themselves in your work that you've noticed that they either stumble over or that you found them, they have their aha moment?
I think the aha moments come over time. Let's say that the thing that I've learned, and again, this is one of the things I had to learn for myself. Like in the beginning, I'd be like, oh, I'll read some books and it'll be fine. I don't want to spend a lot of money on courses because books will do, what I need. And then some of the courses, which cost a lot more money than books, I thought, I don't know, that seems like a lot of money. Then I found some of these courses were totally worth the money. A lot weren't. But what was really worth a lot was working with people one-on-one, or being around people who were doing what I was trying to do, because part of it was knowing, really believing that something that somebody said to do was really going to make a difference. Because in my experience, the levers that you're going to push, the quote unquote levers, the ones that really matter don't work like a light switch. Like you don't flip it and then immediately get a result. They work more like dimmers that take 18 months to come on. And so you have to be patient and you have to have confidence that you're going down the right path. So that means you have to find people that have been down that path, be confident that they're qualified to help you do the same thing. Because it's not just, hey, do everything I did. Because if you do everything I did, you're going to do a lot of things you don't need to do because I've made a lot of mistakes. So you need to find people that can say, look, we can skip all these steps that didn't work. Just do these 3 things. But the reality is it's going to take 18 months to get the results. But the results that matter, once they start kicking in, you're not going to have to pedal as hard. It's like the metaphor that 80% of the fuel necessary to get something in orbit is in the first minute or whatever it is. And the rest of it is just the momentum you've built up. So that's what has to happen. Or another metaphor would be, you don't say, hey, I'm going to put some seeds in the ground and dump like 17 gallons of water on it, go away for a year and come back and there'll be a tree. No, you have to keep watering it and you have to trust that it's going to grow, and it will if you keep doing that. But those are the things that matter. And it's hard sometimes to know what those things are because there's so many charlatans or just clueless people that mean well and they're clueless. And those to me are the most dangerous ones because you see that they have good intentions. It takes you a while longer to realize, like, oh, you didn't really know what you're talking about.
The other thing, and you've been talking about that, and I want to come back to that, is this idea of finding a new group. And I know you and I both did that because the old group of friends, colleagues we had are all wonderful people, but they're on a different path than we're on now. And so I think just as you do with your group coaching and things like that, having a new peer group, I think is pretty useful.
Yeah, no, I think it's vital because, especially with the mindset part of it, because it's one thing for us to believe something is possible theoretically, and there's all these new opportunities. We can say, oh sure, I could work from anywhere and I could sell my knowledge. That sounds great. I've heard that that's true. Okay, I believe that. But then the next thing is, I don't know if that's really true for my kind of work or whatever mental roadblock you have. And then you go, okay, well, that's true. It is possible. But then was it possible for me to do that? And see, that last one is the one that takes the longest. And so you really need to be around people that will keep encouraging you and telling you, no, you're not crazy, because certainly it's true for me. I'm sure it was true for you. Like the people who aren't doing this new thing, to them, you're planning a trip to the moon. Like they have no idea. And you can tell them, no way, there's all these people that are doing it. Mike Kim and Michael Hyatt and whoever. And they're like, I don't know these people. I know Mark Cuban. I know Bill Gates. So it's wonderful. There are these new opportunities. But if the people around you don't believe that those things are real, even if they want to believe it, they're just not going to give you the psychic push that you need.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's one of those things I found out for myself or told others that people may like you or dislike you, but they tend to like the way you are, whatever that is. So if you want to be something different, it's actually a bit of a challenge, even for those who like you.
No, that's true. Yeah. That's your greatest asset. Be who you are, because all the other spots are taken.
As you went out and, got these new clients to help them become paperless and other aspects of it, I'm guessing you've probably moved beyond just helping people become paperless.
Yeah. So paperless was, for a long time, people resisted. So I had to convince them that it was worth doing and possible. And that's no longer an issue. And then it was the cloud, because lawyers are very afraid of the cloud. And now that's no longer an issue. So now really the thing that I try to focus on is, here are the big rocks that you need to put in place to manage your knowledge factory. Like we're all knowledge workers, right? And Peter Drucker, I think, was the first one to coin the term knowledge work. And he talked about it, but he was talking about it in terms of in an office, clerical work. And what we are doing is digital work, and digital work can be done anywhere. It can be done asynchronously. We can do all this amazing stuff. But how do we run a knowledge factory? What is essential for a digital worker and what's essential for the digital worker in charge of the factory? Being paperless. Okay, yes, you should be paperless. You should be cloud-based. You should use automated scheduling like Acuity or Calendly, like you used and we used to schedule this. So you should leverage automation as much as possible where it makes sense. And you should leverage outsourcing as much as possible where it makes sense, because it generally makes more sense to delegate to people that you can work with anywhere. And that's what digital knowledge work means now. You're not making widgets. They don't have to show up at the factory. So how can you get that kind of help? You can get it very easily from anybody all over planet Earth. But learning how to automate and learning how to outsource takes time, takes practice. It takes more than just information like, here's a bunch of things to try out. So I've had to figure out, how can I explain to people the rudiments of the knowledge factory as concisely, quickly, and effectively as possible. And so for the past couple of years, I've been working on this course, which I call Working Smarter in the Digital Age. And it represents that explanation. And I'm still modifying it a little bit, but people have been through it, say, yeah, this is great, man. It was 75 minutes of video max, and each of the videos are like 4 minutes or 1 minute. And it's explaining all the stuff that we're talking about here, plus giving them a list of the automation things that they need to focus on most, or can look at and see if that makes sense for them, and just working them through. And then the next step after that course is I show them how to document systems, right? Because that's really the big important piece. Automation is good, outsourcing is good, but you do have to explain to people how you want the work done, and you have to document it. And that's boring, but it's essential and it can be done. So I show people how to do it in a workshop that takes 4 weeks. It's 4 Zoom calls. And I show them how to take screenshots and create Loom videos, and mostly just think through what it means to give somebody an assignment if you've never met them before.
Yeah, and I'll say that in today's world, like you mentioned, the screenshots, the Loom videos, all of that's much easier and more and richer than it used to be with written paper instructions, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Just as an example, I use this service called Fancy Hands as one of the tools I use. And I like it just because it's a subscription where you get X number of tasks, quote unquote, per month. And the task is anything that can take 20 minutes or less. And what I like about it is you accumulate the tasks if you don't use them. So I have an ungodly number of tasks accumulated. And I recently decided, I need to go back through all my podcast episodes, which is like 175, and update the call to action in a certain place. Am I going to do this? No. But I can describe how it should be done with a screenshot and give it to Fancy Hands. And I did. And they say, okay, we'll get to that. This is going to take us X number of tasks, 9 tasks or whatever. And I go, yeah, that's great. And they'll say, we'll get to it soon. I'm like, I don't care when you get to it whenever. And then it's done. And it's mind blowing to me that I can hire somebody to do this. But the linchpin, everything depends on me being willing to explain to somebody how to do it. So I do have to take the time to screenshot it all. And in my case, I look at that and go, this is systems thinking. So this is the most important thing. You look at anything you're doing and say, might I ever do this again? Because if I might do it again or want somebody else to do it for me, I'm going to take that little bit of extra time to document this, and then I'm done. I will never have to do this again. I'll be able to give this to somebody to do, and they can do it. And now I can move on to the next thing I document. So each time you document some procedure or policy, you're basically solidifying your business. You're making it so that you can remove yourself from running it more easily because all of the instructions for everything have been documented. It's kind of like Foundation, the Isaac Asimov thing, which is now an Apple Plus again. It's like they were going to go out of business and the empire was going to go away for 1,000 years. And so they documented everything in the Encyclopedia Galactica. That's what you want. Document it all in your encyclopedia, for your business.
Yeah. And again, I think that's a critical thing. And I found that too, that if I'm going to have to do something over and over again, and especially if it's something where I'm not that good at it, I'm best off trying to find somebody else to do it. It's like, I think I started out saying, well, I'll teach myself how to use Audacity and publish my own podcasts. And I quickly said, 1, I'm not at all good at it. And 2, I'm not that enthused about it either.
Why would you want to get good about it if you're not enthused about it?
Yeah, I remember back in my corporate career, I was an early adopter of doing video work. 10 years before I ever got myself out of being the video guy. I wasn't really adding value, but I was the guy that knew video.
That's what people need to do in their business. There's a guy named Ari Meisel who has books and a program called The Replaceable Founder, whose theory is you should be replaceable for everything you do. So one of the things he says that you should do is make a list of, and he calls this your ultimate key performance indicator or KPI. Make a list of 20 things you shouldn't be doing or don't want to be doing. The don't want to be is usually the easy one, but shouldn't be is another component. And you list all these things out and you go, every time I get rid of one through delegation, outsourcing, automation, whatever, I move on to the next. And the question is, how many of those can you get rid of in, let's say, a year? And just keep chipping away at that, because that is your pathway to freedom. The world is amazing. You can automate all kinds of stuff. You can delegate, outsource, but you do have to describe how you want it done or find somebody who already knows how to do it. And that's the best. You don't even have to describe. You just go, hey, like we use Danny for our podcast editing. Danny, I don't know what you do, but whatever you do, just keep doing it. It's great here.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the path for especially independent people, the path to value, because I'm just the old 80-20. 20% of the work you do is going to create 80% of your value. So you got to be careful about that 20%. And it's easy to get, especially as you're starting a business, it's easy to get caught up in, I'll say, what ends up being the non-value added work.
And that's where working with people who know what they're doing can save you, because that 80-20 thing is an amazing, powerful thing. I first learned it from Tim Ferriss and all these folks in Silicon Valley, and anyone who knows business knows the 80-20 rule. But when you first tell people about it, and when I first heard about it, it was the same thing. Yeah, okay, great, got it. A great idea. And then they're like, where is this? Where is the 20-80 ratio? And that's because your mindset is such you can't wrap your head around, and this is especially true for lawyers, because they're perfectionistic. They're spending 80% of the extra time to get possibly an additional 20% of value. And if you're billing for your time, you don't ask this question. But if you start thinking of when am I getting results and what results am I looking for, now you start thinking differently. And you need to think differently like that, even if you're being paid for your time, because disruption is coming and it's coming from robots and outsourcing, and you can't afford to be that inefficient.
It's one of those things where with AI and things, if I do it routinely, I should be concerned that it can be automated.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy. I was surprised to find out recently that this company called notarize.com is doing amazing things, helping people get documents notarized, which I've always found annoying. I always look at this. I thought, this is so stupid. This is medieval fact checking, essentially, to make sure that this person really signed this document. So this notarize.com guy was a guy who was selling his company to Twitter, got frustrated by the notary process, said, oh, there must be a better way. And he dissects it, deconstructs it, figures it all out. The company's worth $760 million. And he solved a common legal problem that any lawyer could have looked at and said, wow, I'll bet people are annoyed by this. First of all, you should see the look on their face and you'd know they're annoyed. But instead of looking at like, I can make an extra $10 or $25, you go, wait a second. At scale, I could make millions of dollars. No lawyer thought of this. It was a non-lawyer. I'm telling lawyers, like, you are a knowledge worker. And anything, any complex problem or any small problem, whatever, that you're solving the wrong way, somebody else is going to solve better than you. And notarize, get out of the way. You're not charging people to notarize documents anymore. That's been solved at scale by an entrepreneur, and you can move on to something else.
Yep, absolutely. Ernie, you've mentioned several of the people that help your team, as it were. How do you go about managing, tracking? I'm not sure the right word, but staying in contact with the various people you've asked to do things.
So when it comes to outsourcing, I've used a couple of different services. There are many of them that are familiar, like Fiverr or Upwork I used in the beginning. And so each of these have different strengths and benefits. But in general, outsourcing boils down to, I need somebody to do something one-off. It's a specialized task. I go in and prepare a website, or something I just need done quickly or once and that's it. Or I need ongoing help. Like I need somebody to answer my phones. That can be done remotely. I need somebody to edit my podcast every week. That can be done remotely. Danny does ours. And so you kind of look at things and decide, is this an ongoing thing? Is this a one-off thing? If it's a periodically I need it thing, then that's what Fancy Hands is good for. But I've also started using a new company called Chatterboss, the boss and chatterboss.com, that I found out about through Ari Meisel, whose advice and insights I find to be very valuable. And he operates at a high level. So when he recommended it, I knew it was a good recommendation. I checked it out and started working with them. And they give you executive assistant VAs. And they have a great model, because what they do is they find somebody that's good for you. I think it's $35 an hour. That person has a backup that's located in South Africa. So you really are getting a team, and then they will even document procedures and give those to you, or just do it because that's how they work internally. And then you can hire specialists if you need it through them when you need it. But it's been really good. And they have their own little internal app that you can use. But I like Trello. Trello's the tool I use. But basically, email is not the tool. You don't want to use email. Slack, Trello, Monday, Asana, I don't know, any kind of project management software, because that's how it's best to communicate with people that are working with you on an ongoing basis, or even in some cases, periodically.
Sure. Thank you, Ernie. I really appreciate all the insight and wisdom you've shared with me and with our audience here. Any final thoughts you'd give for people who are getting ready to launch themselves out of the corporate cocoon and into the world of company of one?
Yeah. I think that for folks who listen to us, the person I've told people to follow and pay attention to is Michael Hyatt, because Michael Hyatt was a traditional, conservative, thoughtful person who, is Christian, and he was the head of a publishing company. And if Michael Hyatt can do this, this is not crazy stuff. Okay. This is mainstream. And it's that old saying by William Gibson, the future is here. It's just not very evenly distributed. And what he means by that is what seems amazing and weird to some people who adopt it seems like the future to other people. That's what it seems like to other people. But people who adopt it are like, oh, this happened 3 years ago. This is not the future anymore. Just need to recognize it. Like, there are so many opportunities. And so look at every challenge you see, anything that annoys you or you find disturbing about the modern world, realize that there are just as many or more things that are amazing. So what you need to do is say, if there's a pile of dung over here, there's actually a pony over here.
Yep. Yeah. And you mentioned Michael Hyatt. And I remember he helped me get started in this way back when he wrote his first book. But I think of the progress and, the things he's involved in now are entirely different than even he was talking about with his first book. Of course, the technology changed.
Yeah. No, I mean, the world, it's just an amazing world. And I think that now with the realization that Zoom has made it so that people can collaborate anywhere, and putting aside should people work in real space together? And yes, they should in some cases, but you can run an amazing business from anywhere, having nothing more than a computer, access to the internet, and a smartphone. And the rest of it is just your knowledge about how to make this work. And so, it's just problem solving. And the number one problem that you'll need to solve is how to run a digital knowledge factory. But that's not a problem you're going to be the first person to figure out. There's already people who figured it out. The path is actually well worn if you're on the right path. And it's really not going to change that much anymore. The part that matters, the part that you need to focus on for the next 5 years, isn't the part that's going to be changing. So now's a good time to get into the waters. It's fine. Come on in.
Okay. Again, thank you, Ernie. I really appreciate it. And I'll include your contact information, your website, those kinds of things in the show note. So if people if I've got any lawyers listening or other people want to reach out to you, we'll allow that to happen. So
great. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Lynn.
Thank you.
Again, many thanks to Ernie for sharing his journey and his insights. Some of the questions we covered included how working on your mindset is a critical first step, why you need to consider your business to be a knowledge factory, why being able to document your processes is critical to working with a team, and finally, why not to chase technology changes. Please refer to the resources in the show notes, and especially refer to Ernie's website and his programs. Again, remember, with an Encore career, the rewards are great. You can work when you want, where you want, and do the work you love. As your coach, I will help you go farther and faster based on what I've learned from being on this journey for several years. You have the time, attention, and the money to make this leap, so let me help you. If you're having thoughts about starting an Encore career, please contact me and take the self-assessment quiz. The quiz will help you get some quick clarity around what's possible for you in the future. After you listen to the podcast, I encourage you to visit my website at linfriest.com and download the PDF as a guide to help you take the next steps in your pursuit for starting an Encore career. Again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.